Welcome to the Metro Lutheran Ministry Financial Opportunity Center's video series. I'm Coach Troy, and today I'm here to talk to you about erasing your debt with the hardcore method. Debt is a monster. It's easy to accumulate, and it can seem impossible to get out of. And being in debt costs you in many ways. First is the obvious amount of money that you're in debt for. That's costing you as you have to pay interest on that the longer that you owe it. Then it's the damage that it can cause to your credit score, which results in you incurring even more debt as you pay the higher interest rates on any future loan. And to top it off, the stress of dealing with debt can have a very real impact on your physical and emotional health. But if you want to eliminate debt, and if you're willing to go hardcore, if you're serious about wanting to get out of debt, it can be done. But before we begin, this is my disclaimer. I am a financial coach. I'm not a financial advisor. And while the information I'm providing for you is intended for those who've set a goal of removing debt as a primary goal in their financial life, the methods I'll be discussing have been promoted by financial writers across a broad spectrum, but the things I'll talk about may not be a good fit for you. And that's okay. There are other ways to get out of debt that are not as extreme as the methods that we'll talk about in this video. So with that said, let's take a look at step 1. Budgeting. Now I understand it's been said, and it's very true, that you cannot budget your way to wealth. However, you can budget your way out of debt. It isn't fast or necessarily easy, but it can be done. Now, the first step is to take a look at your real budget. Take an honest look at how much money comes in every month and know exactly where every single penny is spent. Now, oftentimes, when I'm working with my own clients, this may take us 3 months, as sometimes people don't like to admit where they're spending their money. They don't want to say how much they spend on, for example, alcohol or tobacco or other drugs. Right? And so they don't fully report everything. If you're going to go hardcore, if you really want to get rid of debt, then you need to come up with your budget and figure out how much you are spending every single penny. Let's get back to the method. Now, this may take you up to 90 days, but figure this out, because this is the first step that has to happen so that you can move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is to establish an emergency fund. Now, I often refer to this as an emergency savings account, but it depends upon you looking at your budget and finding $5 a week, $10 a week, $5 a month, any money that you do not have to spend, and put that into an actual savings account. You can do this through a bank. You can do this through a credit union. There are ways to save money. And you're going to put this money aside. Now shoot for $500 to begin with, because this is going to be an emergency fund. So that if, while you're trying to pay off your debt, you need to buy a new washing machine or your tires blow out, you won't have to stop paying off the debt. You'll have money in an emergency fund. That's why I'd like to see people have $1,000, but at least try to get $500 into that account. Now, seriously, this is an emergency fund. Getting the latest iPhone because it has 3 cameras and shoots in X-ray slow motion is not an emergency. Getting the latest Xbox game is not an emergency. This is money that you're going to put away for emergencies only, so that you can focus on getting rid of that debt. This is going to bring us to the third step. The third step is we're going to throw the debt snowball. Now, I've had a video on YouTube having dealt with the debt snowball impact earlier, but basically that's where we're going to make minimum payments on all of our debt and find extra money, that money we carved out of our budget, to throw on the smallest debt until it's paid off And then all of that money gets added to the next smallest debt payment that we're making. And every penny that we have available is going to fall into this. Now, the debt snowball method is a lot of fun once it gets to roll. You start seeing results, and then bigger results, and then bigger results. Doesn't happen overnight, but give it a shot, and it will happen. Now, some people are thinking, this is all just regular debt processes here. This is nothing new. Well, maybe true, but now we're going to add some hardcore elements. Hardcore element number 1, you're going to stop any contributions you're making to your retirement account. Now, I know people right now are thinking to themselves, what? Stop payments to my retirement account? Well, a financial advisor may advise against this. But if your goal is to get rid of the debt, you need to ask yourself, is it costing me more to have this mountain of debt and the interest that I'm paying hanging over me for the next who knows how long? Or am I better off making a little bit of interest on my retirement money? Plus, you could, once you pay off the debt, continue that payment to maybe double up on some of your inputs into your retirement fund. Again, this isn't for everybody, but if it's for you, consider stopping those contributions. The next hardcore action: be brutal with cuts to your spending. See, normally when we're talking about working with folks on debt reduction, we tell them to continue to do some things kind of as a reward for doing a good job on the rest of their processes. But if you want to go hardcore to really get after the debt, you need to be brutal with cuts to your spending. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, first of all, no more eating out, ever. Okay? We eat out for convenience sake. Even the least culinary apt among us can go to the grocery store, buy food, bring it home, and cook it. We may not like to say that we can do it, but we can do it. And if we really want to get out of debt, we may settle for a bowl of cereal for breakfast. We may settle for a bologna sandwich for lunch. And we may settle for maybe a can of SpaghettiOs for dinner. Anyway, but be brutal. This is where I look at you ladies that love to get your nails done and say, don't. If you really want out of the debt, let your nails go for a while. Let your hair go back to being natural. Gentlemen, you're going to have to not get something done with the car. You're going to have to perhaps not belong to a club for a little bit. Whatever it is that's taking money that's not absolutely necessary. The only money that you should be spending in the hardcore method is money that you have to spend. You have to pay your rent. You have to buy food. You have to pay your medical bills. You have to pay your utilities. Anything else needs to say goodbye while you're doing the hardcore approach. Now, maybe I should come back here. All of those things, your nails getting done and getting your car detailed, all those things, they're perfectly wonderful things to spend your money on. But we're talking about someone who's made the decision to go hardcore into removing this debt. The next hardcore addition: sell your stuff. You know, there's a guru going around right now getting all kinds of people to watch her, telling you to walk through your home and grab every item, and if it doesn't bring you joy, to get rid of it. There's also television shows like Hoarders and such online where we know we have way too much stuff. So this is your chance to let that stuff do you some good. See, this is where you go through the house and you find perhaps the silver set that you got for a wedding gift. Maybe you have your grandma's silver coffee pot. Maybe you have a collection of books that somebody gave you, just hanging around the house. You don't use them anymore, but when somebody suggests you get rid of them, you're like, oh, no. If you want to get rid of the debt, get rid of the stuff that's hanging around. You can sell them online. can sell them at pawn shops, and use that money to pay towards your debt. Don't go out to dinner afterwards. Use the money, pay down the debt. Just another idea. Now we're going to go to the last hardcore idea here. Let's get a side hustle. You know, if you have a job and you're working your hours every week, oftentimes people complain about being tired. People complain about wanting more time for this or for that. And when I say get a side hustle, they lose their ever-loving mind. Well, here's the thing. The side hustle brings in more money. More money that can be paid down on the debt. Now, what could you do for a side hustle? Well, we all know somebody who's taken to driving for one of the car services, or maybe delivering for a food franchise or one of those agencies. But I did a Google search, and in less than half a second, it brought back 63 million web page references for a side hustle. Do your own Google search. Find something that you can do. Many of them can be done from your home. Many of them can be done in the middle of the night. Whenever you have time available, there's a side hustle out there for you. And the key, again, is to remember that side hustle money, that's going to go, what? Against the debt. That's right. Now, all of these hardcore additions are challenging. And there are some financial advisors that may advise against some of them. Remember, I'm your coach. These are some things you can do to really add to the power of paying out and slaying that debt monster that may be pursuing you. I'd be happy to walk through and talk through these with anybody if you'd like to. We can work at using the hardcore methodology, or we could take a slightly less drastic approach, maybe a greatly more laid-back approach, depending upon you. But you need to understand the power that debt is having in your life, and that it's important for us to get out of debt. That should be a priority for everybody to some extent. If you'd like some help with these ideas, you want to talk about your finances, find us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. You can watch more of our videos on YouTube, or in the Kansas City metro area, you can give us a call at 816-285-3131. And remember, feed the pig.